telephone meetings, but not necessarily in this capacity. So I really appreciate your patience. We try to make sure that everybody you may need is here this evening so that you can ask your questions. So we ask that if you have anything you would like to know, please look around at the various tables here, and you can take advantage of that tonight. In addition to those things, the MHCSD, the board and staff, are involved in activities that stimulate community connections as well. And this meeting is one of those ways that we try to do that. We try to communicate through our newsletter, our website, special events. How many know that there is one more Music in the Park this Saturday? And those are loads of fun. Those are ways that we try to connect with the community. And we'd like to have your feedback. Before I left the office, I was trying to put up a new page on Request Partner. So it'll be up probably next week sometime. What I'd like to do is have a page where those of you who attend these meetings can give us some feedback on the format, as well as topics that you would like to see that might be of general interest to the community. And we will pay attention. I'm going to now ask the board president, Bernice Tingle, to come to the podium if she would, and continue our agenda for this evening.
And good evening, everyone. Good evening, my wonderful town of Mountain House. This is a great community to live in, but I have just a very few words to say, and that is, the board of directors are really pleased to serve this community. We have bought into our master plan vision, and we want to see our town go in the direction that is planned, that one day, 20, 25 years into the future, that this will be a paramount place that everyone wish they could have moved here early and been pioneers along with us. It's important that we come out each time to these community meetings, because that's where we find out, benchmark how we're doing and how we're moving along. It gives everyone an opportunity to meet with the various services providers that we have in the community, ask questions, and most importantly, it gives us a good calibration as how we're moving along. So I know that there's about 4 communities now, but next time when we have our community meeting, it would be great if we'd have more attendance from each of the divisions and make it a friendly competition. But we want to come out, we want to support our town, but most of all, the board of directors are here to serve you, and we're pleased to be in this community. Thank you.
Supervisor Leroy Ornellas, who has represented Mountain House on the County Board of Supervisors since 2002. And I'll ask him to say a few words. I always look forward to Supervisor Ornellas, who has been here at each and every one of our community meetings. So I really appreciate that. He's represented us very well.
I usually take just a few minutes, but allow me just a slight bit longer and I'll explain why. I usually take this opportunity to kind of bring up some of the things that are going on in the county, at this end of the county. For example, there's plans in Contra Costa County and Alameda County and San Joaquin County to expand the Byron Highway Road. That's being worked on in a few years. It'll probably come to fruition. We have the Byron Highway Grant Line Road, that wonderful angled 3-way stop that is a mess that we all hate. I believe next year they're going to break ground to put lights, expand it, and I was hoping that would have come sooner, but it's going to be here. Yeah, 19 meetings, it's hard to believe. I don't know if there were any homes when I started on the Board of Supervisors. I remember this land, this property, as a large farm. Not a very good one, by the way. It was poor soil, which made it a great location to build a community because it wasn't rich farmland. It was very expensive water. And I remember 20-some years ago going through the whole process. There were 6 or 7 new towns being proposed in San Joaquin County. That's a large number. It was very, extremely controversial. And we ended up with 2, Mountain House, and then a community called Tracy Hills, which ended up being part of the city of Tracy, which is yet to build a home. I like to tease those guys once in a while. If you'd have stayed in the county, you probably would have been building some homes already. So my family goes back 80 years. I just live we're about 3 miles from here. Our family farm's been there for at least 80 years. So I know this area. I remember the first meeting and how enthusiastic everybody was. There must have been over 200 people. And all of the questions that were flying back and forth, because it was new, the residents were new, and they wanted to understand this community. I remember the first opening, or the ribbon cutting for the first school, which I think was Wickland School. It was kind of one of those spring days in May, I think, and you know what May's like here. And so we were up, and there was folding chairs, and there was quite a group, and the wind was kind of blowing. Papers were flying. I think a chair rolled over, and you could see the shocked look on some of the residents' faces. They didn't realize that this is a pretty windy place. And I remember telling them, this is what we call a slight breeze. When the cars are rolling down, that's a big wind. I remember, I think it was my first 4th of July parade that I was in. And I thought, well, nobody knows me. I'm just in there. I'm one of the fellows driving. And we got to a real busy corner. I'm not quite sure where it was, but there were a lot of people. And suddenly, I think some people recognized me. We were kind of stopped. And people started shouting, when are we going to get a grocery store? When are we going to get the high school? When are we going to get this? But the one that I will never forget my entire life, they were throwing all kinds of stuff. When are we going to get this one? I was still driver, move, get going. The one that I remember, and I always will, this one guy goes, when are we going to get a bar? And I actually wrote that one down, and I said we're going to work on that. Now, I bring this up, why? Because this is my final meeting, public meeting with you. I'll be out of office at the end of this year. And it has been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to represent this community, and those of you who know me, Paul, certainly, that there were those that did everything they possibly could to trip this community up in its early stages. And so we had to, on the Board of Supervisors, I had to make little coalitions, because this is, without a doubt, the most important project. This community, I hate to call it a project, but I'll call it that. This is the single most important project we have in all of San Joaquin County. It is that important. We know what it means to this area, we know what it means to the residents, and we know what it means to San Joaquin County to have this new community, this vibrant new community here. But there were those who didn't want it. And my early years on the Board of Supervisors was a challenge, making sure that it never got tripped up, because there are those who would like to see this thing fall flat in its face. Now they're gone, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to fight for this community and to watch it back. And I don't know if Paul is still here, but Paul I remember whenever something would come from Mountain House to the county agenda, I would immediately call Paul, because their office at that time was just across the street. We'd get together and say, okay, Paul, let's make sure that everything is right. Let's don't, so we don't get tripped up, and we would get our heads together, right, Paul? To make sure that we were okay. And I knew we had at least 2 other supervisors that understood the importance of this community. And we had 2 that would have done anything to trip it up. Well, they're both gone, and we're still here, and you're still here. And so, again, this is my last time to be here as your county supervisor, and I want to thank you so much for allowing me to serve you. Thank you.
We have had all of our meetings in the schools, as I mentioned earlier, Wickland, Bethany, and Questa. And now we have a high school that's on the way. I would like to thank Superintendent Dale Hansen for his hospitality and participation in these meetings. And I'll ask him to come to the podium, if he will, and give us an update on what's going on with the school. We see a lot of activity and the growth that's happening here close by. So I'm going to ask him to let us know what that is.
Great, I get to follow a retirement speech. I remember the first time I met Leroy, I was on the job for 3 days, and the exiting superintendent says, you're going to be in the 4th of July parade. And they had a house area that they set us in to wait for the cars to come around. And just moved down from Shasta County, and Leroy puts his arm over there and he says, let me tell you about this. And he can tell stories about every rock. He knows where every body's buried in this county and everything. And it was a real welcoming for me, and I appreciated that. I really, really do. I'm here to give you an update on what's happening in the education system here at Mountain House and the Lammersville School District. And we're off to a fantastic start this year. 37 years in education, and I was telling my staff, I don't think I've had a better start in the schools. We've had teachers in place, we have policies in place, and we're rolling. Parents are excited, and we have some new things coming down in our school district that I'd like to share with you tonight. Over the summer, we hired 20 new teachers. We hired 9 certificated staff. We hired an additional vice principal, and then we hired, I'm thrilled about, an assistant superintendent of educational services. And can we go to the next slide, please? Yeah. And I'd like to introduce you right now, Dr. Kushwinder-Gill. I'm going to embarrass her a little bit. You're going to get to know her because she's everywhere. I thought I worked a lot of hours, and she's putting me to shame right now. She has hit the ground running. She comes from Tracy, and that's okay. That's okay. We've had our differences with Tracy. I look past that. She's got accolades, principal of the year and stuff, but she was a fantastic science teacher. And that's where administrators start. They start in the classroom, and she hasn't lost that passion. She was a wonderful principal in Tracy, and she's ready to move into the district level. And she's brought her knowledge and her energy, and she is excited staff here. She's got Science Olympiads going. She has a lot of programs that she's starting to introduce into our district here, and we just wanted to welcome her and welcome aboard. Thank you. As I stated, this is the growth chart of the Lammersville School District. And 4 years ago I started, like I said, and there was a discussion, and the board hired me, and they said, unify this district, we want our own high school. Sure, no problem. And I said, well, let's look at the statistics. Do we need a high school? And we took a gamble at that time. We started moving forward. We negotiated with Tracy. But if you can look, this is the K-8 student population. And you can see the growth there. It says 2337. That was a week ago. That's 2354 now. Cuesta put in 14 students on Monday. And if you drive around that village, you see the homes that are going up. We're ready for a high school. And it's going to be perfect timing. You don't want to open a school without students in it. It's really not cost effective. It's really expensive. But I believe that this high school is right on track. It's going to open in June 2014. It'll be a perfect timing for the population of high school students to support this school. Next slide, please. Another thing, and I'll talk about the high school a little more in a second, is that next week we start, we call it our Early Childhood Education Center. One of the things I noticed here is we need more support for our 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. We need a diagnostic center for students who have issues and needs that we need to support at a very early age. We need preschool support. We need daycare support. So this is what an inside of the classroom, not our center, is going to look like. That's the size of the classroom. 4 of these classrooms we've started to be placed over the Cuesta campus. Every elementary school we build as a district is going to have a child care center built into it. So when Altamont's built, it's already pre-designed to have this center there. And so we're excited about having this come in. You'll be hearing more about it. We're probably going to do what's called a soft opening in February, because a lot of people have committed to their preschools and everything. And then we're going to do community surveys and sign-ups. So this will be fully going next August. So that's on the way. And this is a sketch of the high school. I've probably shown this to every meeting I've been at for the last 4 years. We're moving forward. Right now, we're really close to completing all the underground, the storm drains, the sewers, the electrical. If you drive by going down Mascot, you see these pillar type situations out there. Those are the light poles. Those light poles are going to be poured. They are being poured right now. And then right after that, on the Mascot side, you're going to see a parking lot go in. And that should reduce a little bit of the dust you've been sweeping off your porches from the construction of the high school. Again, it's going to come in 2014. The first 3 buildings you're going to see the front building on that road running up is Central running right along. That goes on the right-hand side of that slide. Administration and classrooms. And then you're going to see a cafeteria, which is over by the stadium, and on the backside you're going to see a gymnasium. We're starting with that because we're still waiting for the state funding to come in. The state is obligated for about $32 million, and they're a little delayed in paying up some of the obligations they have, as we know, but we're in line for it. We've cleared all the hurdles there, and so we've started with the funding we've had with our partnership with our developer, Shea Homes out here, and we started the project, and we want to get rolling and going. My hope and dream is that by next year, we're going into phase 2, and we're starting the library and voc ed buildings, and we're moving forward with that. Projections are hard, but in 2014, I believe we'll have 600 or 700 freshmen and sophomores in this, and then each year we start adding juniors and seniors, and by the time all 4 grade levels are there, we'll have 1,000 or 1,100 students if my projections come true, and it may even grow faster than that. So we're pretty excited about that, and the school district's moving on. Some of the things we're working on is a seamless preschool through 12th grade education. And it's nice to have that as a school district, because when you change school districts, you go to a high school district, they may not have the same philosophy, so our 8th graders have to adjust. We're going to have a staff that knows every step of the way. So when an 8th grader goes into 9th grade, those teachers are working together, and we're really, really excited about that. And so that's on our agenda. I'll be around a little later if anyone has any questions about it. And I was also in those parades. When's the high school going to? They didn't ask me about the bar, but they did ask me when's the high school coming. And I can honestly tell you, 2014. Thank you.
Our next few speakers can be called Mountain House Finest. They're the people within our community that are very visible, that keep us safe and protected, and I'm referring to our sheriff's department and their staff, as well as our fire. There's nothing that I'd rather see when my home is in peril than a fireman or a sheriff. And so I'm going to introduce Lieutenant George. Funny story, it took me 2 years to get his title correct a few years ago, and then he went off and got a promotion, and so I was right all along. So I've always called him Lieutenant George. But anyhow, I'd like to introduce him, and they have been just wonderful, wonderful partners with us and come in for meetings to keep us apprised of what's going on in the community, from some of the seemingly insignificant things that might be a trend to some of the larger things. And we've been very fortunate that this is a very safe community, and we really haven't had any major disruption. And so there's a couple of new faces that he'll be introducing, and so I'm going to have him take over the next 2 items that are on this agenda. Lieutenant George.
I'll answer to anything but Sue. First of all, to my left over here, Jared Pettit, raise your arm for me. He's the sergeant in charge of the Mountain House deputies. He'll be giving statistical information to you guys in a little bit about what crime is going on in the Mountain House and what other issues may be coming up. He'll answer any of those questions. If he can't answer them, then I'll lie to you about it. So, little humor there. Next gentleman is Sergeant Frank Boesch. He's in charge of animal services. Okay. I'm sure we all have questions about what Animal Services does for San Joaquin County. The Sheriff's Office recently took over Animal Services from, they were separate entity of their own. They are now part of the Sheriff's Office. So the numbers up here, if you call, after hours of 468-4400, that's the Sheriff's Office dispatch. You can ask for, Animal Services. If it's an emergency, they got service officers that are on call that can respond for certain types of aggressive animals, that type of thing. The deputies are usually the first ones that respond, and then if it needs to go further than that. And he'll talk about that in a few minutes also. At the back counter, actually I need to apologize to you first. Ms. Duzenski asked me to have Bill Hughes here, our abatement coordinator and neighborhood watch coordinator, arrive at this meeting. I said, no problem, and then I double booked him. So he's in Lincoln Center, Lincoln Village area tonight. I did bring a bunch of brochures and stuff that were on the back counter. If anyone's interested in starting a neighborhood watch, all the information is back there. There's also a sheet here about who to call for different, if you have code enforcement issues, the numbers to environmental health issues. It's all back there. If they're all gone, come see me after the meeting and I'll give you the numbers and stuff like that. Any questions for me before I turn it over to Sergeant Pettit? Excellent.
Good evening. Just a quick recap. On the City of Mountain House, we have 6 full-time deputies that are assigned here. You guys have 24/7 coverage, and I am a new supervisor to this area. Our crime analysis unit made some nice packets that I put on interest coming in. With that, on page 1, I don't know if you guys have these diagrams, we can go through it quickly. There's an obvious map up front with some different color markings. It's not to scale. It denotes single incidents, multiple incidents of calls for service. Moving on to page 2, there's a breakdown of calls for service specifically for the month of August related to year-to-date calls. And in looking at these, I don't see any alarming trends. What I do see that's productive is in the suspicious persons category, we've had numerous calls, 36 to be specific, in the month of August. And what that shows us is that you guys are eyes and ears. If we don't see something, we encourage you guys to call. If it's an emergency, obviously it's 911. If it's not a non-emergency, the numbers are up here. It's the 468-4400 number, but you guys are our eyes and ears out there, and nothing is too small. Call us, we will come. And right now, as we speak, there is a deputy patrolling us, so you guys can sleep tight at night. Be seen. Yes, sir.
You have the picture of the theft in the mountain of Auckland and a lot of people complain about the theft.
Oh, the thefts?
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I would say that Mountain House is immune from crime. It does occur. The gentleman's asking about some thefts. We have had some thefts here. None that have been an alarming pattern or trend. Again, report activities to us. If there's, say, a vacant house that's been abandoned or foreclosed on, oftentimes that can be very inviting to someone that wants a place to stay, or they know there's some furnaces or appliances that are valuable in there. So again, we will do our best to patrol it. If we know of a house, let us know of the address so we can proactively patrol it. And on this topic, I'll also add a little bit to it. We have a group at the Sheriff's Office known as our STARS. They're senior citizen volunteers, and they also patrol. If, for example, you guys are going on a vacation, feel free to call the Sheriff's Office. Let us know, hey, I want some vacation checks. My address is 1234 4th Street, Mountain House. And not only will our deputies patrol it, but also our STARS volunteers will come by and just give it some more. Again, please call us if you guys see something, and we will respond. Thanks. And I'll now introduce Sergeant Boesch.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sergeant Frank Boesch of the Sheriff's Office. I've been here for 26 years. Approximately 1 year ago, the Sheriff's Office did in fact take over animal control from the Ag Department. Since that time, we've been implementing changes, continuing with programs. I know you're asking about numbers to contact regarding services. I'll speak real briefly to the services that are provided. We're continuing the same services that were provided before with a little bit of an enhancement with the Sheriff's Office. If you've seen the units in the community now, you notice you see a Sheriff's logo on it. You'll also, if you get close enough, you'll actually see we have the mobile data computer similar to the patrol units of the Sheriff's Office. All the calls now come in through our dispatch center of the Sheriff's Office. They will triage those calls based on the nature of the call. If it's a call that is a call for service, such as an aggressive animal, a stray animal, an injured cat, somebody that has been bitten, a lot of those calls are put out over our MDCs or our mobile data computers. those calls are actually sent out during the day. You asked a question earlier regarding barking dogs. The number at the very bottom, the 953-6073, is a general information line. You can call about licensing, if you have barking dog type of complaints, and I can explain that procedure to you here in a second, or you have general information type questions. A lot of times we get calls out here with Mountain House in regards to wildlife. You guys moved into a nice community, it's beautiful out here. Unfortunately, there were some critters that lived here before you did. So sometimes we're dealing with those types of animals as well. We provide other services that are contracted out through our individual contractors. In regards to the barking dog complaint, I'll expand that a little further because a lot of people always ask the process and the procedure that we go through to handle those. Normally what ends up happening is, say you call and you complain and say, my neighbor at 1234 Main Street over here has the dog barks nonstop. And a thing to understand about the barking dog complaints, county ordinance says they have to bark 10 minutes nonstop. Okay, if you can get a dog to bark 10 minutes nonstop, that's a pretty significant event. And that doesn't, I mean, they bark, 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 but if they come up for air, start over again, okay? So I want to put that out right there. That's the county ordinance that we operate under. Okay, we may revisit that in the future. There's some other interesting laws that are out there in other communities, but that would be something that we'd have to go through the Board of Supervisors, and we'd have to go through county council to get those types of ordinances changed. So with that in mind, we mail them a letter. If you give us the address, we mail them a letter saying we've received a complaint. We provide them with information and ask them to contact us in regards to that complaint. Usually we get pretty good compliance with that first letter. If not, normally what we tell people, give it a little time, a couple weeks. If it doesn't stop, call us again. Get letter number 2. And that usually tries to get their attention. If that doesn't gain compliance, then we send the actual officer out there. And I've actually have been authorized by the sheriff before to conduct special operations, meaning we will actually put an officer out here and sit out here to actually listen to see if that dog truly barks for 10 minutes nonstop. I can tell you the officers I've deployed, it's very rare that that does occur. So just so you understand the dynamics of that. I also want to kind of just take a little side step. I want to thank Mr. Leroy Ornellas for his service to the county over the years, and thank you for his support in regards to the sheriff's office and to this community as well. Thank you, sir. Is there any other questions? Yes, sir.
Last year, and actually through the history of Mountain House, we've had problems with dogs off leash. Our board, or as a CSD board, took action on that last year and asked the sheriff to increase their awareness of it and do more ticketing. And I've gotten a couple of emails recently about officers pulling over, stopping people who had dogs off leash, giving them a ticket, but then telling them that you don't need to pay for that ticket. And it is an ongoing problem here. People think we're out in the county, the dogs can do what they want. But just want to maybe have the sheriff here.
I believe the lieutenant wants to speak to that because I have an answer for you.
I was asked to talk about it tonight, so I am. So who would like to complain? Or I would like to.
Absolutely. And when we started the enforcement a year or so ago, I believe we wrote 18 citations. One unfortunate citizen was cited twice that I know of. As far as a deputy telling them they don't have to pay it, I'm not sure why, if that occurred, why they would tell them that. But if I could get a little more information maybe after the meeting, I could deal with that on a personal level.
Okay.
And but other than that, I spoke to another director earlier, and the Mountain House deputies will start enforcing the no leash law in a stricter manner for a period of time from this point forward again.
Thank you.
Answer your question? Very good. Because I do know in the county there is an ordinance that you do have to keep your animal confined. What I like to explain to a lot of people, it's kind of like speeding. We always get complaints about speeding all the time, and from a law enforcement standpoint, it's always a chief complaint, especially in a community like this. The unfortunate side is we can't cite people after the fact. We have to witness it. Same thing with somebody with an animal off the leash or not under their direct control. If we witness it, not a problem. We'll issue those citations. and I challenge my officers all the time. They try to take a very proactive approach. We try to educate and do a lot of other things. We do a lot of documentation at the county level in regards to various animal-related events. So we start building that, quote, case against people. And we've gone so far as to just recently we had a case where we took it to a dangerous dog, where we take a dog away from somebody that has bitten several people and have impounded and moved towards further proceedings regarding that animal. I'm sure there's going to be additional questions. If anybody else has any, please feel free to ask. Yes, ma'am.
We recently heard that a dog had been shot by a police officer. Can you expand on that?
You want to speak to that?
Sure. Yes, that is correct. A deputy responded to one of the neighborhoods here for an aggressive dog that was attacking neighbors. When the deputy arrived, some other neighbors that came out, the dog chased them back into their residence, turned. The dog then charged at the deputy, who discharged his firearm. The animal was wounded. Animal services was called. It was, I believe, around 9 o'clock at night or so when this occurred. Animal services was called. By the time they got there, the owner's brother arrived on scene and took the dog to a vet, which I believe it is still alive at this point.
Will it be released back to the family, or?
I'm sorry?
Is it going to be released back to the family or impounded, or?
The family took it to the vet. At that point, the dog is still with the family.
Any consequences though for the family?
I'm sorry. Okay.
Any consequences with the family or the dog?
I'll let Sergeant Boesch speak to that.
I know it's kind of confusing because you all see same uniforms. I am a deputy sheriff sergeant. I supervise animal service officers who are they're not of a law enforcement capacity as a deputy sheriff. They do have powers of arrest, they have powers of citation, they have all these other additional powers. What we do is we work in conjunction with our sheriff's office buddies. We all wear black uniforms. It all pretty much looks the same. We will get that case from the officer that responded out that night, and we will pursue an investigation. We'll look into the history of that animal, and at that point we'll make a determination what the best process and what we need to move forward with. And that could be inclusive all the way up to dangerous dog. Once again, it's based on the history of the animal, severity of the attack, and like I said, those are all factors that we take into consideration. So we work closely with our deputy sheriff. Any other questions? I want to thank you all.
Our next speaker is Division Chief Stephen Hanlon from our fire department. Is he still here? Here he is. Tracy Fire is a welcome presence in our community as well. And you will see that Tracy Fire is also involved in more than just firefighting. They do a lot of prevention awareness campaigns in our community. Last year I know that they did the drowning awareness. It was very effective, and I know it had a direct impact on the statistics as well. So they're an integral part of our community and very visible as well. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you, Mimi. Good evening. First off, we also have Engine Company 98 with Captain Ed McMahon, Engineer Dale Peterson, and your firefighter paramedic. Second off, I'd like to publicly thank Leroy for what he's done for the firefighters and the rural district as well as the Mountain House. So thank you, Leroy. Good job. I'm going to make it brief. I just have a few things to talk about tonight. First off, we'll talk a little bit about statistics. Then we'll talk about Fire Prevention Week is coming up. We'll talk about what we're going to do with that and the pancake breakfast that ties into that, and then mention just a few words about weed abatement. So to start with, statistics. I love statistics, and if you ask any of those firefighters what I've done for the last 15 years for the fire department is I've been the guy back doing data and GIS, and I can tell you all there is about statistics, but statistics kind of put us to sleep. Statistics, our our call volume in the Mountain House area pretty much follows what you saw as far as the student enrollment. So it's climbed up as the population has grown, but it's pretty stable and it's growing at a reasonable rate, and we've been able to handle the calls so far. This year, one thing that is a little bit different is the number of structure fires we've had in the Mountain House community has increased. Normally we have 1 or 2 responses all year long. This year we've had 7 structure fires in our area. 4 of them were actually working when we arrived, so that the number of structure fires went up. 2 of those were controlled by the sprinkler system. So I just want to say those sprinkler systems are doing the jobs that they're supposed to be doing. And I don't know if you know it or not, but all the new houses being built are required to have sprinklers. So statistically, structure fires are going up. The causes for those structure fires, one of them was suspicious, the other 2 were appliances started the fire. And just kind of weird things, not something you can expect in your home. So, all right, Fire Prevention Week's coming up. You guys all know what Fire Prevention Week is? No. Fire Prevention Week started in 1925. The President Coolidge and the government at the time said, we got a bad fire problem. What are we going to do about this fire problem? So one of the things they wanted to do was make the community more aware of the fire problem so they can make themselves safe. So it was enacted in 1925 by a president, and it's been going on ever since. The date was selected because of the Great Chicago Fire. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Great Chicago Fire. It was in 1871 and occurred on October 9th. So it commemorates that week before and after the 9th of October. So it's like the Sunday through the Saturday of the week. And the way we commemorate it here locally is we have a pancake breakfast, and we raise money and we give it back to the community. I think Dr. Sue can probably attest to some of the money we've given to the athletic programs. So the money, every penny we make from the pancake breakfast goes right back into the community. So we have 2 pancake breakfasts. One is this year on the 6th at the fire station in downtown Tracy, and then the following Saturday we're having one here. It's going to be from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. on October 13th, and it's $5 for adults and $4 for seniors and children. We're also going to have you guys been to those before? Have you been to one before? They're a lot of fun. We have like a little fire drill for the kids, so the kids can be, firefighters for a minute and squirt water and climb ladders and do that kind of stuff. And we also have this thing called, we have like a side thing to raise money, and it's called the money booth, where we put kids or people inside this money booth, and it's spraying money around with air, and they try and catch all the dollar bills. And whoever catches the most at the end wins iPods. And I think we have 3 or 4 iPods to give away this year. So go down there and see that. Okay, back to Fire Prevention Week. What's the message for Fire Prevention Week this year? It's have 2 ways out. Have 2 ways out. And the message is there just to tell us that, hey, we have a smoke detector that works. If it goes off, what happens? How do we get out? So the message is plan your escape. And we brought some material that's back on the back table back there. It's just a 1-page sheet that's really easy to follow. It says, here's how you do an escape plan. And then there's some graph paper to help you do it. So take advantage of that while it's here. If you guys have any issues with your smoke detectors at home or any questions about smoke detectors, you can call the fire department. Engine 98 will come out and take a look, and if they can't handle it, we'll give you recommendations on what to do. The other thing I wanted to talk about was our Community Emergency Response Team. You guys know what that is? Community Emergency Response Team. It's also called CERT. You'll see they wear these big green hats and vests. And what the Community Emergency Response Team is, they're people in the community like you. They come into the fire department. We provide them 3 weeks of training. It's 1 Saturday, 8 hours for 3 Saturdays. And we teach them how to prepare their own house to be safe in the event of a disaster. But also, we teach them how they can help us. So they kind of become the block boss, or they're like the people out when the disaster hits that's so big, the fire department, the police department, and the sheriff's department are all so busy we can't get everywhere at the same time. And these people come up and they start helping people. They do building searches, provides first aid. They can extinguish small fires. So there's quite a bit of training that's involved in it. Here in Mountain House, we have our first Mountain House CERT training going on right now. It started a couple weeks ago, and it's going on for the next couple of Saturdays. And if you're interested, we're going to do it again in January, the last week in January and the first 2 weeks in Saturday. And you can call this number right here, and we'll give you the information for that, and you can get involved. I think we're going to do 2 or 3 in Tracy, and 1 in the rural area, and 1 out here for sure. And they're happening right at the community room at the fire station. Weed abatement. Any questions on weed abatement? Do you know the weed abatement program? Out here, the weed abatement program is a county ordinance-based weed abatement program. We handle the first steps in the weed abatement program out here, and the county code enforcement officers handle the second steps. And the way, just briefly how it works is if you see somebody's house that has weeds, or there's weeds down on that vacant lot down the street, and you're not real comfortable with it, and you want to get rid of it, just call this number. We'll come out and take a look at it. We'll find out who the property owner is, and we'll let the property owner know, hey, you got 15 days to clean it up. We'll come back out and inspect it. If it's still a problem, we'll come back out, take one more peek at it, then we'll send a letter that's a certified letter. 15 more days we go back. Still a problem, we hand it over to code enforcement. Code enforcement then hires a contractor to come out and actually do the work, and then they receive the bill. So weed abatement. All right, that's all I have. If you have any more questions, I'll be hanging out at the back, and we'll take care of it. So thank you, and thank you for letting us serve you.
For those of you who are commuters, you're aware that a couple months back we lost one of the transit lines that was coming through Mountain House and providing a service that people relied on. And so now San Joaquin County RTD has brought a line through that goes from the Wigland Park area between, somebody will have to let me know exactly where that stop is. On Deanza. So in the mornings at 5:30 a.m. there is a bus that departs here and will take you to the Dublin BART station. And at 6 p.m. departing from the BART station, there's a bus that will bring you right back home. So we have some more information in our newsletter, as well as we'll have, if there are any updates in the change in times of those departures, because this is kind of a pilot thing that they are feeling out to see if they get ridership in order to sustain this route, then they will give us some updates and maybe make some changes based on feedback from the ridership. So keep your eyes open for that. So we're very grateful that there was a gap plan in place that helped the commuters here in Mountain House. I did want to make one quick clarification. It was brought to my attention that yes, the transit bus that leaves in the mornings to go to the Dublin BART station leaves from Wigland School. Your best bet for any interactive information would be to go to the San Joaquin Regional Transit District website, because they've got all the updates there, but it is leaving from Wigland School. Mark your calendars. This Saturday we have music in the park. We have some great music and food lined up.